Uh, one statistic that I would like to throw out there to the folks for your consideration is as compared to the 2008-2009 budget, the 2009-2010 budget is showing a total reduction in expenditures of $10 million across the board for the city. So you can see we've been very proactive in cutting our revenues, or in cutting our expenditures. In addition, we're looking at other revenue generation ideas that would take a lot of time to go over right now.
But that's what we need is time. So stay tuned. We're going to be back. Just click the other link that you see. That will see part 2 of this. Hi, welcome back to part 2 of Market News Media's interview with incumbent mayor who's running for re-election, Rob Adams. How are you?
I'm great.
Long time no speak.
Really? It's been at least 5 seconds.
So just to touch back, when we were talking about the economy before, we were talking about when you came into it, it wasn't as appealing as it is. Just give people an update of how it is now.
Well, as I said, I was seated in June, and the real economic collapse started in around August, something like that. And so, basically it was a crisis, quite frankly. I mean, the revenues dropped off the edge of the earth, and it was way beyond what our expectations were for our budget. We had already set that. We had just set the budget in June. So, we had to get very proactive in dealing with it. It could have been disastrous, quite frankly. And so I have to really compliment the staff in particular for making the recommendations that they did to council, and then the council for considering all of the options and making the choices that were made. So I'm pleased to announce that I have every expectation, and I may get lashed for saying this, but I have every expectation that we're going to be very close to having a balanced budget going into the next budget cycle. And that is extraordinary. We also have about an 80% ratio between our expenditures and our reserves. And I don't know that there's anybody in Arizona that can make that claim. We have over $9 million in our reserve fund. So, quite frankly, folks, there's a lot of noise going on out there about this so-called budget crisis that we have in the city, but I can tell you that we have dealt with it, and I think that we've been really effective in dealing with it, and I feel very comfortable moving forward.
You heard it. Now, like I asked your Jerry Frey, who was running against you, I asked him about your accomplishments, and it would just be fair to ask you about his accomplishments.
I served with Jerry for about 2.5 years, and he and I voted the same on some of the issues that came to council, and we didn't vote the same on some of the issues that came to council. What I would say is, I'm not sure that I can address any specific accomplishments that Jerry has made, other than the accomplishments that were made during the decision-making process on the council. I haven't really thought about it, quite honestly. I'm sure that you got that answer from Jerry. As far as accomplishments, surviving 4 years on council is an accomplishment in itself.
You should get a medal for that.
I think for me, the real accomplishments are what you do outside of council, what you initiate.
Yeah.
And those are the kinds of things that I was trying to point out earlier.
Well, since we only have a few minutes, the big hot topic is the lights. To touch base more, the dark skies, putting lights on Highway 89A. Where do you stand on that?
Well, it's a long story, but the short story is that I think that the lights is a short-term solution to a long-term issue. I don't think that lighting the corridor is the answer, at least the street lights, is the answer that we want in Sedona. First of all, it doesn't address the daytime safety issues. Second of all, the Pedestrian Safety Committee, which I initiated back in 2007 to study the issue, when they came back with their recommendations in terms of what were the best solutions for pedestrian safety, did not include continuous roadway lighting. They came back with 14 or 15 other solutions. And so I don't understand the wisdom of council arbitrarily throwing out that idea and saying we're going to install the lights. What seems to be driving all of this is the issue of liability. You know, if somebody gets hurt or injured or killed tragically on the highway, and we haven't moved forward with some kind of solution, then we are liable, and I absolutely agree with that. But we have done things. We have reduced the speed limit. We have strict enforcement. We've done some educational things. We're moving forward with putting a street light at Adante and Airport Road, things like that. The issue is that I don't think, what we want to do is do it right the first time. And if we install X number of lights along that corridor, and then later on we come back and we're looking at the redevelopment of that corridor in terms of how we want it to be. We want it to be a boulevard. We want it to be pedestrian friendly. We want it to be safe for pedestrians. We want it to be aesthetically pleasing. All those kinds of things. I don't think the streetlights really address that issue. They don't address the daytime safety, and they don't address the long-term plan. It's a short-term, it's a solution in the short term.
It's a Band-Aid.
It's a Band-Aid, and the problem is we're going to be spending $2 to $3 million on this Band-Aid. My idea is let's do the same thing that we did on Highway 179. Let's have a roadway with medians, turn lanes, roundabouts, pedestrian lighting instead of the 30-foot street lights. I think that this community could get behind that idea.
Let alone the residents and the tourists enjoying the beautiful stars that we have out at night with keeping safety in mind as well.
Right. I mean, you know, I really haven't come across many people that don't like the 179 corridor, even though it's not finished.
Yeah.
They
just don't like the traffic.
I think it reflects our beautiful environment.
Yeah.
It doesn't impact the dark skies. It creates pedestrian safety day and night. It looks like it fits here, and if we do the same thing on Highway 89A, we're going to have a continuity in our roadway system that works. So let's do it right the first time, folks. That's what I'm saying. Let's do it right the first time.
So you stand behind what you say 100%. You're not going to fold.
I'm not going to fold. No. I think we need to do it right the first time.
And that's why there's been
Let's not make a $3 million mistake and have to pull the lights out later when we decide that's not what we want along that corridor.
And then, oops, we lost $3 million.
Well, you know, we could say it's ADOT's money. Well,
Yeah.
Big deal. I'm sorry. ADOT didn't, I mean, they didn't grow that money on trees. That came out of our taxes.
Yeah, so we all paid for it,
Yeah.
essentially.
You know, the argument about doing the 179 type of project down 89A is going to be the cost. Obviously, we need to look at that. We don't know what that cost is going to be. Can we do it incrementally? How much money would ADOT be willing to contribute toward that? What sort of resources? I was just talking to the city manager about that. What sort of funding resources do we have available to us to cover the additional costs? We have never vetted all of that. That has never been put on the table and discussed. So let's talk about it before we make a mistake.
Good. And again, why don't you go ahead and share your website, because we're going to wrap
My
this up.
website is robadamsformayor.com. It's got a lot of great information. I invite you to visit that. And you can also interact with me off of that website. So that's the best way to reach me.
And he's a very busy man, but he's taking the time out, and I want to thank you very much.
My pleasure always, Alan.
Have a good day, ladies and gentlemen. Bye.
Peace.
Peace.